The morning was quiet. Sunlight through the window. Coffee cooling on the counter. Nothing urgent waiting for me. Then the sound came back. Not the explosion, the voice. A shout, sharp and close, cutting through everything. Someone yelling for help. Someone else yelling a name that wasn't mine. The memory never arrived whole. It never did. Came in pieces. Heat pressing from one side. Smoke thick enough to erase distance. A choice forming before there was time to finish the thought. Move left and reach the group closest to the exit. Move right and try for the ones already trapped deeper inside. I remember the weight in my chest. Not fear. Responsibility. Someone screamed again. Closer this time. I moved. I don't remember deciding. I remember acting. The next clear thing is the smell. Burned fabric. Skin. Pain sharp enough to cut the sound away. The present rushed back all at once. The kitchen. The counter. My hand gripping the edge too hard. I released it slowly. My sleeve slid back. The scar was still there, running along my arm and disappearing beneath my collar. I stood there for a moment, breathing through it. The choice had already been made, years ago, and it had followed me home.
Most days start the same way. I wake up before the alarm, even though I don't need one anymore. The house is quiet, the kind of quiet that settles in once it knows no one will argue with it. I move carefully at first, not because of pain, because my body still expects it. The mirror in the bathroom is unforgiving in the morning light. The scar along my arm is always there. It climbs higher than most people expect, disappearing beneath my collar when I pull my shirt on. I don't rush. Rushing belongs to another life. Outside, the neighborhood is already awake. Someone walking a dog, a car pulling out too fast for a quiet street. Normal sounds, doing what they're supposed to do. I nod when people pass me. They nod back. Some of them look a second longer than they mean to. Most don't ask. I'm grateful for that.
I worked for years where silence meant safety. You learned to speak only when it mattered. That habit followed me home. My family knows the truth. They know where the scar came from. They also know I don't offer details anymore. It wasn't always like this. I used to fill rooms without trying. Normally, I used to believe being present meant being available. Now, I choose distance the way some people choose peace. Carefully, intentionally. At the grocery store, a man once asked if the burn was from an accident. I told him yes. That answer was easier than explaining the rest. Daniel, I remind myself sometimes, that's still your name, even if most days it feels like something I used to answer to.
Before the scar, my days had weight, but they made sense. I worked with people who trusted routines because routines kept everyone alive. We didn't talk about heroism. We talked about procedure, timing, and exits. At home, I was quieter than most men in my line of work. I listened more than I spoke. My family learned to read my silences without fear. There was nothing dramatic about my life then. That's what made it stable. I believed discipline was enough to keep things from breaking. If you prepared well, if you followed the rules, you could limit the damage. That belief stayed with me longer than it should have. When the call came that night, it didn't feel different from the others. Same urgency, same controlled tension, same promise that training would be enough. I remember checking my gear with familiar calm. I remember thinking about getting home on time. There was no warning that this mission would be the one that followed me back.
The call came late, but not late enough to feel wrong. I had just finished eating when the phone vibrated on the table. No name on the screen. There never was. I listened without interrupting. Address, situation, civilians inside, time already working against us. Nothing about it sounded unfamiliar. That was the problem. I moved through the house with the calm that comes from repetition. Keys, jacket, one glance toward the sink where I had left the mug. I remember thinking I would wash it when I got back. Outside, the air felt heavier than usual. Not threatening, just dense, like it was holding something. During the drive, no one spoke more than necessary. We shared information, not emotion. That discipline had saved lives before. The building was already surrounded when we arrived. Lights, voices, people standing too close because distance felt useless. I scanned faces without meeting eyes. Training teaches you where to look, but also where not to. The entrance plan was simple. Too simple for how much noise was coming from inside. I adjusted my grip and felt steady. At the door, I hesitated for less than a second. Not from fear, from calculation. Then, we went in. Inside, sound collapsed into itself. Shouting echoed where it shouldn't. Movement came from more than one direction. The smell reached me before the heat did. Metal, smoke, something chemical I couldn't place fast enough. We moved the way we were trained to move. Forward, covering angles, counting steps without saying the numbers. That's when I saw them. Civilians pressed together near the back, closer to an exit that wasn't clear anymore. Another group farther in, blocked by debris that hadn't been there in the briefing. I did the math without meaning to. Distance, time, what the structure would allow. Someone yelled that the situation was shifting. I could hear it in the building before I heard it in the radio. I pointed, gave directions, watched the first group start moving. They were slow, afraid, alive. Then something changed. A sound I still don't have a name for tore through the room. Not loud enough to be an explosion, not quiet enough to ignore. The floor shuddered, the air tightened. I knew in that moment that there would not be time for everyone. I stayed where I was longer than protocol recommended, long enough to make sure the first group kept moving. When I turned back, the heat was already closing the distance. I remember thinking, very clearly, that this was the point of no return.
I moved back toward the second group, knowing what that meant. The space between us felt longer than it had seconds before. Smoke pressed lower, forcing everyone down. Someone was crying. Not loud, controlled, like they were trying not to waste air. I reached the debris and tested it with my weight. It shifted enough to tell me it wouldn't hold much longer. I called out instructions, slow and clear. Hands first, one at a time. Stay low. They listened. People usually do when they have no other choice. The heat surged without warning. It didn't burn yet. It warned. I remember the exact second I understood that staying meant accepting what wouldn't change. There was no calculation left to do. I pushed the last person forward and felt the pressure hit from behind. Something slammed into my arm, then my shoulder. The pain arrived late. The force didn't. I lost my footing and hit the ground hard enough to knock the air out of me. For a moment, all sound disappeared. Then the heat came all at once. I don't remember screaming. I remember thinking that I couldn't let go yet. Not until they were clear.
When I woke up, everything felt distant. The ceiling above me wasn't familiar. The light was too white. Someone was speaking, but the words didn't connect right away. I focused on breathing instead. Later, they told me how long I'd been unconscious. They told me how many people made it out. They didn't tell me right away how many didn't. I learned that number on my own. Recovery was slow and exacting. Skin tight where it hadn't been before. Movement relearned in small increments. The scars formed gradually, as if my body needed time to decide what would remain visible. My arm first, then the line that crept higher, refusing to stay hidden. People visited, colleagues, family. They spoke carefully, choosing words meant to protect me. I listened without interrupting. When I was clear to return, I asked for time instead, not because I was ordered to stop, because I no longer trusted myself to measure loss the way I used to. Leaving wasn't dramatic. Paperwork never is. I walked out quietly, carrying a version of the night that never matched the reports. That was when the silence began to feel permanent. Years passed without markers. No anniversaries, no dates I felt the need to circle. Time settled into routine the way dust settles on unused furniture. I took work that required little explanation, enough to stay occupied, not enough to be asked who I used to be. The scar drew attention before my words ever could. People noticed it in fragments, the way you notice something and pretend not to. Some asked questions they didn't want answers to. Others avoided the subject entirely. I learned which was easier. At night, the memories didn't arrive as scenes. They came as sensations. Pressure on my chest, the smell of smoke where there was none, the certainty that a different decision might have changed the numbers. I replayed the moment more times than I can count, not to rewrite it, to punish myself for surviving it. Sleep came in short stretches, enough to function, never enough to rest. I told myself this was the cost of the job, that everyone who stayed long enough paid something. I just happened to pay in quiet.
My family never pushed. They checked in without demanding closeness. Invitations came with no expectations attached. I accepted some, declined most. It was easier to be alone than to carry my presence into rooms where people remembered who I had been. Once, at a family gathering, my sister touched my arm without thinking. Her hand paused when she reached the scar. She didn't say anything. Neither did I. That silence said more than either of us could have handled out loud. I kept my world small on purpose. Familiar streets, the same grocery store, the same time of day. Control felt safer than hope. I convinced myself that this was balance, that stepping back was a form of responsibility. If I stayed distant, no one else would have to carry what I did. That logic held for a long time, until the day it didn't. I met him by accident, or at least that's what it felt like at first. I was standing in line at a small cafe I rarely visited, waiting longer than usual because the machine had stopped working. When I turned, he was already looking at me. Not staring, recognizing. He didn't mention the scar right away. He asked my name instead. When I said it, something in his expression settled. He told me his. Evan. The way he said it suggested I was supposed to know it, even if I didn't. He spoke carefully, as if choosing words that wouldn't break something fragile. He said he'd been inside the building that night. He was one of the people who made it out. I felt the room narrow without moving.
My body remembered before my mind did. He didn't thank me. Not yet. He told me he'd been looking for me for years and hadn't known how to start. I nodded, unsure where to put my hands, aware of how exposed I felt standing there. He asked if I would sit with him for a moment. I said yes, because leaving would have been harder to explain.
We talked without rushing. He told me what he remembered. The confusion, the smoke, the pressure to move when moving felt impossible. He described the moment he realized someone had stayed behind. Not as a detail, as a fact that shaped everything after. Then he told me he hadn't come alone. He nodded toward a woman waiting near the window. Laura. She stood when she saw us look her way, adjusting her coat as if giving herself time to breathe. He said she was related to one of the people who didn't make it out. I felt the old weight return, familiar and immediate. This was the moment I had prepared for without admitting it. Accusation. Anger. The final confirmation of what I already believed. She reached the table and stopped just short of touching me. Her voice was steady when she spoke. She said she wanted to see the man who had stayed. Not the reports. Not the headlines that never came. The man who made the decision. She didn't ask why I chose what I did. She said she understood that no one leaves a place like that unchanged. I didn't know how to respond to that kind of clarity, so I listened.
The story didn't spread the way I expected. It didn't move fast. It didn't announce itself. A small article appeared in the local paper a few weeks later. No headline large enough to frame a hero, just a column tucked between community notices. It described the night plainly, what happened, what was lost, and was saved. My name was there, once. No photograph. People began to notice me differently. A cashier paused before handing me the receipt. A man at the next table nodded without smiling. Someone held a door longer than necessary. At a diner near my apartment, I reached for my wallet, and the owner shook his head. He said it was already taken care of. I didn't argue. And I didn't thank him. I understood the gesture for what it was. Recognition doesn't always come with noise. Sometimes it arrives quietly and waits to see if you'll accept it.
What surprised me most wasn't how others reacted. It was how little resistance I felt this time. The guilt didn't disappear. It shifted. It stopped speaking in absolutes. I still remembered the faces of the ones who didn't make it. That part never left. But the memory no longer stood alone. Evan checked in occasionally. Short messages. No pressure. Laura sent a note once. Not forgiveness. Understanding. I noticed changes in my days that didn't feel forced. I stayed longer in conversations. I didn't rush home as quickly. The scar was still visible. That hadn't changed. What changed was the way I carried it. It no longer felt like proof of failure. It felt like evidence of a moment that couldn't be undone, only lived with. For the first time in years, I wasn't bracing myself for the past to return. I was letting the present hold its ground.
I didn't change my life overnight. There were no decisions that needed announcing, no moment that required witnesses. A few weeks later, I cleared a small section of ground behind the house. Nothing ambitious, just enough space to work with my hands. Evan showed up without saying much. He didn't ask if I needed help. He picked up a shovel and waited for me to start. We worked in silence, the kind that doesn't ask to be filled. Soil under our nails, the steady rhythm of effort. At one point, he stopped and handed me a small packet of seeds. He said they were easy to grow, that they didn't need much, just consistency. I nodded and took them.
As we finished, Laura stood a few steps away. She didn't join us. Her presence was enough. When they left, I stayed outside longer than planned. The ground was uneven, the work unfinished. That felt right. The scar was still there. It always would be. But standing there, with something new beginning quietly at my feet, it no longer felt like a verdict. It felt like proof that life doesn't end where damage begins. If you've been carrying something you never fully forgave yourself for, this story is for you. Some things can't be fixed, but they can be lived with, honestly. Subscribe for more stories about quiet strength, hard choices, and the kind of peace that doesn't make noise. I'll see you in the next one.